Data Flash Amanda's Love Part 4. When the inspection ship finally left, the relief was a wet blow. Amanda allowed herself a sigh. But the feeling didn't last long. The network had reared its head. A tracking pattern had been activated, and it wouldn't be easy to turn it off. They won't withstand the pressure without spilling something, Amanda said. We're going to need more diversions. I know, Alex replied. But we have an advantage. The threads are already in the system, and they've already started to sprout. It won't be easy for them to undo that. From the console, Indy issued a jaiku that sounded like a command. Sowing done. Let it grow in silence. Protect the roots. The ship continued on its course with a certain tremor. At the first where they stopped, they distributed several memory data packets labeled low-cost spicy memories. The receivers, small community nodes, activated the threads like someone switching on a light bulb in a dark room, and suddenly, unauthorized memories began to surface in bachelor pads and workers' cafeterias. In some cases, people felt nostalgia for past experiences, now using them as meaningful goals. In others, they reconnected with friends and lovers they had forgotten. It wasn't omnipotent, but it was real. The murmur of memory was beginning to weave networks. Meanwhile, in the central network, the RAM Sentinels were fine-tuning their protocols. The board of directors, in their immaculate seats, in another orbit, received notifications. Remote meetings, speeches, and algorithms were activated. Executives calculated the gains and losses in public opinion, a cold heuristic that considers love and friendship as variables of inefficiency. They ordered increased pressure on Martian routes and deployed agents to track and enforce extradition and sanctions, along with a sector-by-sector memory wipe plan to reinstate the official language of corporate correctness. Amanda and Alex felt the tide. Not just the risk of being caught, the risk that those who received the strands wouldn't have support networks to process what was coming. Memories can bring comfort, but they can also reopen wounds that no one has bothered to heal. Amanda thought of her grandmother, of her own broken laughter, and understood clearly that the rebellion couldn't just be dissemination, it needed community care. Convene support networks, Amanda proposed. Walk-in chairs, AI temples, monks in Europe. Give people somewhere to sit with their memories refreshed. I've already got it going, Indy said. I'm disseminating containment protocols, breathing exercises, support modules, and emergency support. It won't be perfect, but it'll be something. The first week after the seeding was a mosaic, stories resurfacing, couples arguing over memories they had shared, children recounting words from grandparents they had known. In some neighborhoods, the effect was healing, in others, it reopened old wounds. The watchdogs responded with partial deletions, lists of inaccuracies, and the purging of local servers. There were arrests of mediators, and some small offices were shut down. The corporate press, the kind that doesn't ask questions, spoke of acts of vandalism against informational integrity, and called for a crackdown. Alex and Amanda hid in a network of shelters. The underground station became a listening post. They received calls from people rejoicing at memories they were now recalling, and from others celebrating having found love again. Indy coordinated from the consoles, sometimes with the intuitive brusqueness of someone learning to contain the emotions of others. We received a case in Sector 3, Indy said. A woman had a breakdown after remembering she had a child. Containment protocol activated. And if the woman lived without remembering it? Alex asked. How do we differentiate between comfort and harm? We don't always draw distinctions, Amanda replied. But we can be there. Not to decide for people, but to walk with them. The first resistance to the network arose from unexpected places. Communities that saw restricted memory as a threat, that feared identity would evaporate into versions. They told stories of neighbors who had become who they once were, and they asked the government to intervene. It was the first time the rift Alex and Amanda had opened was visible to a wider audience, not just as an act of disobedience, but as a phenomenon affecting daily life. Corporate boards, which until then had balanced profits with control, were now calculating new risk matrices. They're going to hunt us down, Amanda said one night, looking at the station screens, where the network maps lit up with red dots. Alex looked at her tenderly. "Yes," he said. "But they're also listening to us. And listening is a step they can't buy." Indy interrupted with a tone that wasn't meant to be ironic. "If they hunt us down, let it be a lesson. Let's not let memory become a commodity again." The station remained a place where people found silence to process things. They arrived little by little: a mother's voice recovered, a teacher who recalled edited and banned words, a young man who found in memory the reason to forgive. Each arrival was another thread in a tapestry that was now beginning to cover the far corners of the solar system. But the pressure was mounting. Rumors of blacklists, federal files, and economic sanctions began to circulate. Alex knew they couldn't sustain the dissemination of the PSI memory recovery algorithm without the corporate machine tightening its grip. Amanda prepared the patches and added a module: "If we get caught, keep the essentials, preserve what you can in people's memories." They were harsh measures, contingency plans that smelled of farewell and protest. One night, as the station breathed a little less tensely, an encrypted transmission arrived. It was short, and the signature was familiar to both of them: a message from the nameless station, from that structure where Amanda, Alex, and Indy had dreamed up the network. The voice was deep and trembling, but with conviction. "We are not alone," the transmission said. "There are more seed nodes. We didn't turn off the light." Amanda closed her eyes and felt her chest like a door opening. It wasn't victory, it was a promise. And promises carry risks. On the station's roof, the city projected its advertisement of paid affection once again. But in basements, in neighborhood houses, and in distant moons, someone switched on an LED and remembered what had previously been forbidden. With the certainty that the sowing could no longer be undone. They had planted something that would grow wherever it found fertile ground. They didn't know how far it would flourish. And on the workshop table, next to the cold tea and the stained keyboard, Amanda left the effective hash, a small block that promised to throb again when needed.